Shalom and welcome to Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker. Revealing the Truth is broadcast live via the internet every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time from our own television studios right here in Birmingham, Alabama. Our program is the media branch of Igniting a Nation Incorporated, a 501c3 ministry devoted to reaching the church with the truth of the Bible from a Jewish believer's perspective. We are a commercial-free network, 100% supported by your contributions. We are committed to bringing a bold voice to a wide variety of topics presented from a biblical worldview. The live broadcast is televised through our website at ianbn.com and archived on our YouTube channel, Igniting a Nation. You can follow Igniting a Nation on Facebook and Twitter for our latest show updates and daily guests. Send us your comments at info@ignitinganation.com. And now, for today's rant. The English language is full of expressions and adages that sum up our condition. There's an old expression that says, "The faster I go, the behinder I get." It speaks to the pace at which we live life and the speed in which we blaze through projects. It applies to reading the Bible or praying and how we seem to fall behind and miss something. Another expression is that it's always darkest before the dawn. I think that there's a new one that I'm going to start to use that says, the more information I have, the less informed I am. These times that we are in are both exciting and scary, filled with anticipation and a nervous expectation. It seems like every time we open the paper, read an email, or turn on the news, there's another report on this threat, that famine, this disaster, and the new end of the world scenario. The reports seem reliable, filled with facts and quotations that are enough to convince you that the one world order is right around the corner. And maybe it is. Would you be surprised to hear that there have been 63 documented failed and 1 ambiguous end of the world predictions between 30 AD and 1990 AD? That means that on average, every 31 years, there is a credible and documented report of the second coming of Messiah. The reports range from nations aligning for the campaign of Armageddon, a massive battle in Israel, the arrival on earth of the Antichrist, an evil political military leader, the tribulation, a 7-year interval of great suffering and death, reports of the rapture when Christians who have been born again, both living and dead, will rise into the sky towards Jesus, or some horrendous natural disaster. Present-day headlines suggest many of Israel's enemies are aligning themselves in ways that will lead to a proactive invasion force against Israel. Would this be the battle that is described in Ezekiel 38? We read from Ezekiel 38, verse 14. "Therefore, Son of Man, prophesy and say to Gog, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In that day when my people Israel are living in safety, will you take notice of it? You will come from your place in the far north, you and many nations with you, all of them riding on horses, a great horde, a mighty army. You will advance against my people Israel like a cloud that covers the land. In days to come, O Gog, I will bring you against my land, so that the nations will know me when I show myself holy through you before their eyes. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Are you not the one I spoke of in former days by my servants and the prophets of Israel? At that time they prophesied for years that I would bring you against them. This is what will happen in that day. When Gog attacks the land of Israel, my hot anger will be aroused, declares the sovereign Lord. In my zeal and fiery wrath I declare that at that time there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, every creature that moves along the ground, and all the people on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence. The mountains will be overturned, the cliffs will crumble, and every wall will fall to the ground. I will summon a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the sovereign Lord. Every man's sword will be against his brother. I will execute judgment upon him with plague and bloodshed. I will pour down torrents of rain, hailstones and burning sulfur on him, and on his troops, and on the many nations with him. And so I will show my greatness and my holiness, and I will make myself known in the sight of many nations. Then they will know that I am the Lord. History has shown us that Israel's darkest days were the times of their greatest persecution. Yet, their greatest breakthroughs occurred after their greatest persecution. The hardening of Pharaoh's heart and the harsh life of slavery escalated and led to their exodus. From Exodus chapter 3, verse 7, the Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And out of the ashes of the Holocaust, the darkest days of Jewish history, came the establishment of the Jewish state. We read about Nineveh in Jonah chapter 3. And the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time, Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message I give you. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was a very important city. A visit required 3 days. On the first day Jonah started into the city, he proclaimed, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overturned. The Ninevites believed God. They declared a fast, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. When the news reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off all his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. Then he issued a proclamation in Nineveh, by the decree of the king and his nobles, do not let any man or beast, herd or flock taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent and with compassion turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish. When God saw that what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he had compassion and did not bring upon them the destruction he had threatened. Nineveh was the last nation in the Bible to be saved. Israel will be the next and last nation to be saved. From the prophet Isaiah we read in chapter 58, Shout aloud, do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their rebellion and to the house of Jacob their sins. For day after day they seek me out. They seem eager to know my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right and has not forsaken the commands of its God. They ask me for just decisions and seem eager for God to come near them. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you have not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting you do as you please and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends in quarreling and strife and in striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for a man to humble himself? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying on sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free hand, break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter when you see the naked, to clothe him and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? Then your light will break forth like the dawn and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer you. You will cry for help, and he will say, Hineni, here am I. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings. And we read in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, Now, brothers, about times and dates we do not need to write you, for you know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you, brothers, are not in darkness, so that this day should surprise you like a thief. You are all sons of the light and sons of the day. We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. So then let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be alert and self-controlled. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk at night. But since we belong to the day, let us be self-controlled, putting on faith and love as a breastplate and the hope of salvation as a helmet. For God did not appoint us to suffer wrath, but to receive salvation through our Messiah, Yeshua. He died for us so that whether we are awake or asleep, we may live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. It must get darker before the light can be seen. In Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, Let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. Israel's greatest victories came at the darkest hours. Jonah's greatest victory, the salvation of Nineveh, came after his darkest hours. Elijah was desolate when his victory came. We who are surrounded by light do not see the light, but the darkness creeping in and encroaching on our lives. Look around you as night falls and the daylight disappears. There in the night sky comes one star that breaks through the darkness. Out of the darkness stands the light, and the light is surrounded by darkness. It cuts through the darkness and is not defeated. And when it seems darkest, there in front of our eyes, you can now see what was there all along. All the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of even one candle. One came into the world and declared that he had overcome the darkness and was the light of the world. There was darkness before the light, and now darkness has been defeated. There is only one who has overcome the darkness and can bring light into our lives. His name is Yeshua, Jesus. Accept his light. And that, my friends, is today's rant. The Rabbi's Rant is often drawn from the teaching archives available to you via inbn.com. This compilation of over 700 hours of audio and video teachings span the last 10 years. If you subscribe to the teaching archives, you will be able to watch and listen to sermons, prophecy classes, Torah studies, Jewish Roots and Heritage series, Harmony of the Gospels, and so much more. Visit www.inbn.com for more information. We'll be right back.